Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Abundant Life. I'm Janet Benkovic. Our guest today maintains that the education establishment is stealing the minds of a generation of children in order to create a wrenching transformation of our society. In books and speeches, articles, and expert witness testimonies, she has chronicled and heralded how our children have been coerced to become anti-property, anti-industry, undiscerning sitting ducks for the global citizenry of tomorrow. How has this happened, and where will it lead? Those are the questions we will discuss in our program today as we look at the devastating effects of our psychologized classrooms. Join us for a provocative discussion. Psychopolitics, psychographics, data mining, psychobehavioral profiling, tracking, monitoring, assessing. While these words sound Orwellian in tone, they actually describe methods being implemented in school classrooms throughout the United States. Methods, says today's guest, that are tools of coercion meant to capture the minds and hearts of our children and grandchildren. A chilling statement, to be sure, but one that is backed up by 3 decades of voluminous research and study. And it is chronicled for you here in this book, written by Beverly Ekman, entitled Walking Targets: How Our Psychologized Classrooms Are Producing a Nation of Sitting Ducks. Let's welcome Beverly Ekman. Beverly, welcome back to The Abundant Life. It's been far too long.
Oh, it's great to be here again.
Well, thank you so much. I think we were talking before the program began that it was in 1999 that you first joined us on our set here. And then we were talking about this book, and I mean, this is quite a book, called Cloning of the American Mind: Eradicating Morality Through Education. And this book was an international bestseller for you, and one that flew off of our bookshelves at the ministry. And in that, you began to make us aware of the fact that something was happening in our children's classrooms that the majority of parents didn't recognize or know was taking place, but that it was all for a purpose. Now tell us a little bit about what was happening and toward what end.
Well, I first noticed it when I was preparing to become a teacher and in college, and it didn't sound right to me. They didn't seem to care what my major was or whether I knew anything to transmit English grammar to kids or what the value of X was. What they were concerned about was teamwork and collective spirit. And I started, what? Wait a minute, excuse me, that sounds awful like Lenin to me. And then they started talking about, you know, sexual liberation and all of these things that just didn't wash with an educational environment to me. And I ended up writing my term paper naming every single point of illogic in my adolescent psychology book. And I got an A from a professor who said he'd never thought about it that way before. So that's kind of what got me off to the races on this. But basically, parents were not aware of what's happening because it was post-World War II that it was before that it came in. But it wasn't blatant. And this enlightened atheism that was being talked about to school children, that was out of Robert D. Owen, I mean, in the very early 1900s. He was from Scotland. and then, of course, Freud's sexual liberation and Otto Gross's sexual politics. And then we morphed into something really bad, Wilhelm Steckel's guilt causes neurosis. And that's when the Christians got it. Because if guilt causes neuroses, then we shouldn't feel guilty anymore, and Christianity, you know, is about sin and
moral
redemption
absolutes.
And moral absolutes, and they didn't want any of that. And so they started taking this down to the classroom level. And then we were in trouble.
Well, you know, it's interesting because I recall from Cloning the American Mind, which in your book, Walking Targets, you take us there through your introduction and your prologue. And, you know, I have to tell you, I began to highlight, and then I was highlighting just about every sentence, and I said, this is not effective, and I stopped highlighting. But you take us to a point in the state of Pennsylvania, which is near and dear to my heart, being the fact that it's my home state, and I taught school in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania for a couple of years.
That's right, you
before
did.
Moving to Florida. And you talked about a test that parents began to notice that their children were taking that had absolutely nothing to do with studies or with academics or with you know, disciplines. It had everything to do with what was happening in their homes. And this alerted a number of parents that something was very strange. Tell us about that.
Well, that was my first book, Educating for the New World Order, and it was based on a parent in Pennsylvania who well, a bunch of parents actually in Pennsylvania who got wind of this thing. And it wasn't that it had nothing to do with academics. What they did is interspersed opinion-oriented psychological questions that you would find on, say, a personality test or a psychological inventory. And that was what was scary, and it turned out to be about 61% of it. And that's, of course, more than half. So then you start wondering, what's going on here? And then there was another test called TELS, and that, Testing of Essential Literacy Skills. And in the foreword, it even said, this tends to measure knowledge to some extent. Whoa.
Right.
You know, so then you're really off the reservation as far as academics are concerned when it's majority and they're admitting it blatantly. Now, up to that time, it was illegal to do that sort of thing. Now, unfortunately, with the No Child Left Behind Act, it is not illegal to do that sort of thing. And so Pennsylvania was kind of a testing ground. You'll find that a lot of states float a trial balloon to see how much resistance they get. And, of course, this Pennsylvania group, they floated a lot of resistance. But what they did was just get them off their case. And, of course, it takes so long to bring a case before the courts anyway that the child has graduated by that time.
Right.
And then the parent is worried that it'll somehow be taken out on the kid, which it is, not just in the classroom, but you have to understand there's electronic portfolios now. Everything is done electronically. How are you going to prove that this electronic information has been purged if it's incorrect and that there's no backup file? You tell me. There is no way to do it at the present time.
Well, we all know that once something is available through the computer, it's eradicable. You can't eradicate it. And so it is there. And it can always be accessed in some way. And this is what began to concern the parents in Pennsylvania. The question was, well, why are they asking these questions, and to what end are they using them, and who is it that's asking these questions?
It was behavior.